Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You know, they have in the program a keynote speaker. You know what the word keynote means, that the keynote is that I need to finish in time for the reception. And I'll make sure that I do that. But this has been a totally awesome piece of diversity and discussion and dialogue. I want to give yourselves a round of applause for just kind of hanging in there. This has been totally amazing, very fruitful, and idealistic for where we're going as a real estate industry. My goal and my objective here is to kind of tie it together, and I'm going to bring it back home to the U.S. so you can kind of get an understanding of where things are going from an African-American standpoint of view, but more so from a multicultural standpoint of view. If you don't have that incorporated in your business today in the United States, it's something that you guys may want to look at because it's going to be very, very critical in the near future. These are just some additional points on myself, which is really not that important. So we'll move to the next slide. The two key factors in working into the black community are really the buying power of the black community and NAREB, which I'll talk about. That's the trade association. Because if you're going to work in different communities, you need to be a part of the different trade associations that make up those communities. And there's two other trade associations. It's ARIA, the Asian Association, and NAREB, the Latino Association, and NAREB. So you really should be a part of all three associations because that is the makeup of where this country is going by evidence of this slide, in which you probably can't read or see. I think I did that intentionally. But on a serious note, this comes from, and you can research it, pull it up yourself. We know today, based on this study from the Harvard Joint Center, that there's going to be 17 million new homeowners between now and 2025. 13 million of them will be people of color. That's about 80% of the market is going to be people of color. So if you're not in that space, you have to get in that space because that's where the industry is going. Don't go where the industry is today, because all of you in here look like you're making a lot of money. In fact, I may have to get a loan from a few people before I leave Chicago. But you guys all look successful. You're all doing great. But as you look to operate, the model has changed. As you've heard today from all these wonderful panelists, all these different speakers talking about, global is the new local. Global is next door to you. It's not overseas. It's now. It's happening right now. So you have to get connected to all races of people, not just one group, because if you don't, you're going to be left behind, as evidenced by the study by Harvard Joint Center. Let's talk about the African American purchasing power. You need to know a little bit about that, because our purchasing power is huge. Based on the statistics in the billions, it shows you how we've progressed as a race in our purchasing power. And we still need some education on what we need to do. We still need to improve and pull up our credit score as a race of people, because the average African American credit score in this country is 573. The average credit score in FHA is 729. The credit score has increased because of FHA expanding and becoming going from 1% of the market share at one time when subprime was at the height to being 30% of the market share. And FHA was designed to be 12% of the market share. And thus you see the floor of credit ceiling rising because of the loans. And most of that's particularly driven by the expansion into the West Coast, areas like California, and jumbo loan products coming into the marketplace. But the percentage of change in the buying power, if you look at this, and how that percentage of change is increasing, it's becoming more and more relevant as we move into 2012 and 2017. And then you look at the nation's largest consumer markets, and we see Illinois is on the map. My state didn't make it. Ohio, we didn't make it, but I do have to say one thing about Ohio. Even though we didn't make this statistic, and we probably don't make a lot of other statistics, we just deliver presidents. That's what we do. We deliver presidents. That's all I need to say. So whoever's going to be president in 2016 is going to come through the state of Ohio. So keep that in mind and stick with me because I'm going somewhere. Okay, next slide. National Association of Real Estate Brokers. You heard the National Association of Real Estate Brokers was formed in 1947. We've been around 66 years as a national group. We're the oldest, largest African-American trade association in this country. We were founded in 1947 for democracy and housing. And in 1947, when we were founded, we were created and open to all races. And today, in 2013, that still holds true. What is unique, what was mentioned, is that the Dearborn Realtors was founded in 1941. And the unique thing about this is that you had these different realty boards surfacing throughout the United States long before we became a national group. In Harlem, New York, was formed in 1925. Philadelphia was formed in 1935. Atlanta, Georgia was formed in 1939. And of course, Dearborn in 1941. So you have these different boards popping up. Our organization was founded by 11 men and 1 woman. Women, you need to clap. And I often go back and just kind of reminisce and just think, they had 1 woman. I bet that 1 woman did all the work. Because women are very detail-oriented, nothing against the men. We know when we really need to get things done, we have to involve a woman. So my wife is not here, but I'm not afraid to say that, and I'm sure she would give me a good pat on the back if she was here. But our organization was formulated then at that time in Tampa, Florida. And since then, we have continued to grow. We're about 96 chapters strong throughout the United States. And the key ingredient for us is democracy and housing. We're the oldest fair housing organization in this country. So that's really an important ingredient in terms of what we stand for as it relates to housing. Now, our mission statement, value statement, and vision statement. Our national organization is unified minority professionals in the real estate industry to ensure fair and equitable practices that facilitate sustainable home ownership. The goal is to promote a meaningful idea and exchange and to create an environment of real estate excellence, legendary service of our clientele as a result of trust, cooperation, and commitment to ethical principles. The vision is to become the organization of choice in developing future leaders and promoting democracy and housing. So again, that's our motto, to promote democracy in our housing. And you guys should look to get connected with our organization. I won't touch on the values, those are just key bullet point words. The key to our organization, however, is a compilation of its affiliates. And so let me give you some context to go with the content so you can comprehend exactly what I'm saying. Is that our organization is made up of these 10 affiliate groups. And these 10 affiliate groups play in similar spaces that we see in the Realtors or NAREB in terms of the different groups. We have a commercial division. We have a contractors division, which really deals with property preservation, repairs and renovation. The one thing that we do have unique that probably sets us aside from the other 2 trade groups, including NAR, is we have something called NIDHCA, and that stands for Housing Counseling Agency, where we have licensed real estate practitioners that are HUD-approved counseling agencies, and they have offices. And their offices are set up independently within their real estate offices, and they're audited by HUD 2 to 3 times a year. But they're housing counseling. Not only do they counsel on credit, but they also been doing a lot of work in the arena of loan modification, and they work very closely with NeighborWorks of America. So they've been working with the state association. I was here in Chicago for a meeting of 4 states, Ohio, Indianapolis, and Indiana, and I think it was one other state, and it was talking about tapping into the money at the the Illinois Housing Agency for modifications and to work with that. So that's kind of what that particular group does. We have a home buyers counseling division, which really is doing the counseling component of what needs to be done without the legislative or the requirements of being a HUD-approved agency. We have the National Society of Real Estate Appraisers. We have Real Estate Management Brokers Institute, which was formed here by really a legend, Mr. Albert Johnson, back in 1968, who passed away a couple of years ago, but he was really heavy into training and developing that property management piece. We also have a sales division. Our organization was the first organization nationally to create a REO designation called an REO specialist. We created it back in 2000. We had this designation in place 4 years before 5-Star started to promote their REO designation. So again, we were really ahead of the curve in that area. United Developers Council, we have developers within our organization. Women's Council, much like there's Women's Council of Realtors, we have a Women's Council that focus on education, scholarships, and financial literacy. And then we have the Young Realtors Division, which is a piece that I'm excited about because I was one of the founding members. That was the last affiliate to come in, although I'm not too young, I'm getting a little shade of gray here. This is kind of what the organization does to you, much like being President of the United States, you start to gray after you get in office. So I'm really particularly proud of the Young Realtors because their role is, it's a twofold role. Number one, we consider you young if you've been to less than 5 national conventions. Okay, so that means you're really young in terms of being around the organization. And the other part is that you really are young. So that's the other key component. And we try to drive you, and they're actually the superhighway to kind of drive you to the prospective discipline or the thing that you really want to do and really want to achieve the most. And so that's really the role of the Young Realtors Division, which is unique. This next slide is kind of comes out of our easing. These are all of our national partners and collaborations and things that we worked on in 2012 as part of our year in review and the different focuses that our organization has had. And it's too numerous really to really discuss, but there's a couple key ingredients that we work with NAFIO, which is the National Association of Higher Education, and their focus is, they're the ones that fund the HBCUs. So I'm in DC in March, quick story, and I'm speaking, and so I go to the mic and I'm talking a little bit to a lot of educators about QM and QRM and the impact that it will make on down payment on our business and how that can be a problem if down payments have to be 20%, including the FHA deal. It would, just so you know, take the average African American 14 years to save up a down payment. And so after it was over, a professor from Hampton University, he came over to me and said, "Young man, I disagree with what you're saying. You need to get your facts straight." I said, "Yes, sir, what do you mean?" And so he started saying, "I own 5 properties in different states. I put money down on every one of those properties, and I think everybody should have to put 20% down." And so I kind of nodded my head. I said, why do you feel that way? Because one of his people bought a $700,000 house, they lost it, got a $300,000 house, they lost it. And I said, listen, it's not based on down payment. If you put 50% down and you lose your job, you can't make the payments. It's based on cash flow. And so what I attempted to explain to him is, if you look at the VA loans as a model, and you look at VA's default rate, it's a very low default rate. I don't know if anybody really realizes the default rate is less than 3%. And with veterans, in most cases, it's 0 down. So it's not the down payment, it's the education. And, you know, trying to explain that to professors was difficult. And I had another challenge as I was going over to a boat ride, and I was sitting next to another professor, and I said, we got to get these young kids in college to start to look at buying a home. And she kind of frowned and looked at me and said, is it a good time to be buying a house? Aside from backslapping her because she was on my left, I had to compose myself, and I was like the cartoons, you know, when they go, hey, you know, cartoons. So I go through that spin, and I take a deep breath and kind of collect my thoughts. I said, yeah, America's on sale with a big yard sign in front of it, 3.99 interest rate. Yeah, it's a good time to buy. But if the professors at a lot of these African American or HBCUs, schools are not aware and they're not educating these students when they graduate, then you can see that they have a renter's mentality. And that's something we're all fighting, regardless of race, which we saw happen 3-4 years ago in Time magazines, that buying a home may not be such a good idea. Renting may make more sense. 2 + 2 is 400% of the time. I mean, it's not 11, it's not 35, it's not 62. I mean, if you qualify, yes, you should own a home. If it makes sense, everybody should own a home. It's just a make-sense scenario. So I know all of you agree with that. I think this is a slide I really want to focus on. Yeah, that's right, clap. The key to our organization, I think, is really the referrals and the leads. I mean, I've gotten a lot of referred business just out of Chicago doing my tender with the Realtors organization. And being able to have a national network, for those of you who may not be with national companies, you may not have the infrastructure to have people in just about every city of every state. And so, being a part of any trade association, whether it's REALTORS, NAREB, or NAREB, that you need to be able to have this inter-network. And so this has really helped create a referral network to be able to generate business. So as you look to move into this more of a diversity, multicultural platform, these things will become very relative. The other thing is advocacy. Key thing that happened in my first year in real estate, actually second year, in 1989. How many of you were in the business in 89? Raise your hand. Remember interest rates were like 11%? And so in Ohio, the Ohio Realtors got together. We went down to our state agency, and the Ohio Housing Finance Agency, and we went down and we proposed to them because they had all this bond money. Remember the bond money? We still got it now. We use it on these transactions. And we were able to get a minority set aside of $42 million. And I'm telling you, that saved me because while everybody was doing deals at 11%, I was able to sell my listings at 7.99. And I wouldn't tell a whole lot of people about this program. To be honest with you, I was trying to work that $42 million so I could stay in the business. But the truth told, interest rates were 11%. And that's what the organization did, being associated with a trade association and being able to be frontline, to be able to service the communities that we typically serve is critical. The other piece for us that we've been pushing through our organization is the state of housing in Black America. A piece that we refer to as SHEBA, and that's the acronym for State of Housing in Black America. And the reason being is because African Americans have the lowest net worth of any race of people. So I'll give you some quick statistics, and depending on whose study you're looking at, the average net worth of African Americans that own real estate is between $4,900 and $5,700, where our Latino counterparts are about $6,900 and our white counterparts are about $74,000. The ones who don't own real estate, the net worth is $1,000 to $1,700. And even African American women, in comparison to white women, their net worth is $100, while white women's wealth is $41,500. So there's a whole education piece. So we did 5 issue forms around the country, and now we're working on our solutions model. And we may be coming to Chicago in June. We haven't put it together, but we'd love to have you ladies all come out, and a few good men, to participate in a women's work session, which I kind of call the view on steroids, where we have the women together and they talk about real talk relationships. They talk about all these different things, but they kind of tie back into the real thing, which is wealth. And it really starts with education. So the advocacy is a big thing. And then the other thing is our midwinter conference and our national convention. We just had our midwinter conference in San Diego in February. All of you in Chicago, bone-chilling weather, and San Diego's a great place to be that time of year. And then our national convention will be in Denver. And so what happens is, I like to tell this story because it's very important. If you do decide to get involved with the Dearborn Realtors, you gotta promise me that you're gonna go all the way. How many of you went to see a movie lately? Raise your hand. Where'd you go see? Oh, come on, you can't go blank on me. Lincoln, great movie. You said 42. Okay, here's the deal. When you join an association, it's like going to the movies. You buy your ticket, right? You go to the ticket box, you buy your ticket. And then you come in this big lobby area, that's where they have popcorn and the concessions and everything. Most people stay in that room. They never go see the movie. You gotta come to the conferences, because the conferences is the movie. So if you just join an association, I don't care what association it is, if you're not going to the national conventions, whether it's NAR or whatever it is, or NAREB, you're not seeing the movie. You're just out there eating the popcorn. I can't tell you anything about Lincoln sitting out there eating popcorn and eating hot dogs and soda. I have to go into the theater to see it. And so when you go into the theater, that's where the opportunity helps. And one of the things that happened to me back in 1997 kind of changed my life with the organization I was at a national convention in Los Angeles, California, and a gentleman from Fannie Mae stood up, and it was about 200 of us in the room. He said, today, we're gonna make everybody Fannie Mae REO brokers. I said, wow, that's a beautiful thing. This is far before there was such a thing as an REO or market crash, right? So I've been a Fannie Mae REO broker for 17 years because realtors can put your name where you can't put your own name. And it's one of the things that we can do as a trade association. We bring the business opportunity and economic opportunity to our members. So we bring the added value piece. But you can't do that if I wasn't in the theater, right? If I didn't go see Lincoln, I couldn't have done that. If I stayed in the lobby, I would have missed it. So just paying dues and having access is simply not enough. And so I would even tie that to being here. Coming to this session, sitting through all of these fabulous speakers, and hearing everybody talk about what was said today. If you go back and do the same thing, if nothing changes, nothing changes. If you go back to your practice and do the same business model that got you here in 2013, won't take you where you need to go 2014 and beyond. So you have to look at this piece because there's a reason why this summit was put on, because there's importance in multiculturalism. There's importance in diversity. There's importance in diversifying your business model so that you can be successful and you will survive. Just like we lost a lot of real estate practitioners, we lost a lot in Ohio, you lost a lot in Illinois because of this crisis. The next wave is this multicultural wave. And if you don't change the way that you're doing business, you're going to find yourself in a similar situation, exiting the business like some of these other professionals. So I would encourage you to stay involved, keep uplifted, look at the Black community, look at servicing that, get involved with Dearborn Realtors, continue to learn these different cultures, continue to learn about multiculturalism, and you'll have a very, very successful career. Thank you, and I'll open it for questions.